Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You're cordially invited to this episode of Remember the Hyphen, as we bring to you a very special look at a very special book.
Oh, that is one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? I'm Average Joe Squad.
And I'm Zongetsu 134.
And welcome back to my birthday bash 1 month late.
Yeah.
Because my mental health sucked.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be doing, in my opinion, one of the greatest Marvel events ever. And certainly, in my opinion, the greatest wedding in Marvel history, if not comic book history. And that is, you can probably already guess.
The wedding of Spider-Man.
And yes, I actually have many things associated with this. I didn't bring all of them.
Yeah.
But this is the 90s trade,
Which I think you're going to be giving to a buddy.
Yeah, this copy I'm giving to a friend actually.
Which is the one I looked at because I wasn't going to be bringing home that gallery edition.
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't loan this out.
Well, I know you wouldn't anyways, but I
paid $50 for this, man.
Well, low-key, I wouldn't be.
Yeah. This has everything that this has, but this has different stuff. Basically, this contains the actual annual, the 3 issues that lead up to it, the comic strip, and the Shea Stadium stuff, along with some supplementary materials about like the wedding dress and stuff. This contains all of that, plus the 2 what ifs, which was what if they didn't get married, and then what if he married Black Cat. In addition, it also contains
the honeymoon, I think you said?
it contains the honeymoon, Spectacular Spider-Man Annual number 7, Marvel Saga, The Official History of the Marvel Universe number 22, and material from Not Brand Ek number 6, as well as having, there's another one it has in there. I think it might be just Marvel Saga.
I love how it has the Not Brand Ek in there, and also they reference Irving Forbush in the comic strip, which I'm like, deep cut.
Marvel Age. It has Marvel Age number 54.
It's basically just showing
the history and stuff.
Yeah,
but
leading up to the marriage.
Yeah. You can't get this anymore. There is a newer version of it that has everything, like, for all intents and purposes, this is the wedding album. If you try to find this, you will just get what's the gallery edition now, but in a non-gallery format.
Well, you might be.
You can find this still. I found this on Amazon, I think, for like $10. And
I was about to say, you probably can
this
still
exact
find
copy I found for $5 at a comic shop. I just bought it because it was for $5. I wasn't going to leave it there.
Because if I could find that ancient ass Hobgoblin trade, as well as the Revenge of the Hobgoblin's Revenge, you can find just about anything on Amazon if you're looking for books.
My copy of Death of Joan DeWolf is an early 90s trade.
Which I was kind of jelly of you, even though I have a really great trade.
Speaking of which, real quick, before we dive into this, early 90s trades are very, very nice.
Yeah.
I have quite a few of them. I have, obviously, I have The Wedding. I have Cosmic Adventures.
Yeah.
Parallel Lives, Fear Itself, which are larger size. They're like because they're graphic novels. Spirits of the Earth, which is a hardcover, which, again, me and him had never heard of that book until I found it on Amazon and got it for like $10. I know I have one more.
I have the 90s Secret Wars.
I have Avengers versus X-Men, and it's like a 90s trade.
Yeah, I have the 90s Secret Wars. You saw me with
that. So like there's a certain look to 90s trades that's just very nice. I also have Soul the Hunter. Soul the Hunter is the other one I have.
And you have Identity Crisis.
Well, that's like a late 90s trade. I'm mainly talking about the early 90s.
True,
ones.
but it looks almost exactly like
I found another trade that's in that same series. Actually, they reprinted Death of Gwen Stacy.
Okay.
As in that same format, like Marvel's Finest or something, I think it was.
Because like the 2000s and like 2010s graphic novels are good, but like
these have a certain look to them.
Well, for one, the covers on those graphic novels suck. It's usually just an image from it on a black background. Like
spines are all uniform. Usually, they're usually like that red and black swirl pattern. Or anymore, they're all white
or something like this.
Yeah, like
they still have this in here.
Like anymore, they look like that on the sides.
Yeah. Although
we need to get to that at some point because technically that's after this, so we could in theory do that.
Actually,
I can read it. I have the epic.
Yeah, I'll just skim through it again because I've read it enough. I know it.
Yeah, but anyway, getting into it. Anyone that knows me knows that this is for me this is the ship of kings, basically. This is my ride or die ship, basically.
Yeah.
So like I'm surprised it took us this long to review this, honestly, on this channel. I'm kind of surprised that I hadn't pitched it.
Yeah. Well, then to be fair, that's one of those stories where it is a pivotal moment. It's not one of those ones that I'm like, oh, we should really talk about this very soon.
Yeah, but, and like I said, I have this, I have the gallery edition, I have the actual physical annual, I have both covers too. Fun fact, it was the first Marvel comic to have a variant cover.
Okay.
This was the very first one, because the gallery actually might have a better picture of it.
It probably does.
Yeah. So this was the. Was this the newsstand one? I think
that was the newsstand one.
No, the newsstand one is, I think, him in the tux. But
yeah, actually, it is him in the tux.
This is the one cover, and the other one it's the same one, but it's him in a tux. And then instead of all the villains behind them,
it's like it's
all of his family and friends. Like Jonah's there, Aunt May, Aunt Anna, Harry, Flash, Robbie, all of them are there. Like I said, I think there's a better picture of it in there. Yeah, there it is. It's not the same cover, but it's the.
Also, look at that poster.
I want that poster so fucking bad.
That's a really good poster.
Even if it's a reprint, I want that poster.
That's a really good poster.
But, so I have those. And I actually have the newspaper clippings, like the strips. I actually have the physical strips, like real ones.
Okay.
Because I bought them on eBay. So I actually have the physical newspaper strips of this wedding. I'm only missing the Sunday strips.
Yeah.
Which, those are collected in here. I'm sure I'll get them eventually.
Yeah.
I have those, I scanned all those, and then I have them now like in a baggie, and they're away from the sun.
No, that's fair.
Basically, because I'm trying to preserve them.
Yeah, because you don't want to hit them.
Well, because 1987 with the newspaper strip was actually one of the years you can't get it digitally. Like, for the most part, the only stuff you can really get from the newspaper strip post 86 officially is the wedding, which is in this, but it's only the wedding stuff. It's not any of the stuff leading up to it. It's not any of the stuff after it. Mutant Agenda, and then 1999 up to 2019 you can find very, very easily digitally if you look.
Yeah.
But that was 87 was one of those missing years, and I actually found some on eBay that had almost all of it. So I bought them and scanned them, and I uploaded them onto the internet, so that way they are preserved.
Also, quick aside, if you're wondering, if the Mutant Agenda sounds very familiar to you,
it was also a comic.
Well, not only was it a comic, that is what the 2-part TAS episodes where Spidey meets the X-Men in the TAS is based on.
Yeah.
In fact, it's even called the Mutant Agenda.
Yeah.
Because that's where the Brand Corporation comes from.
I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so needless to say, this is one of my favorite things. So.
Yeah. So before we really get into the stories themselves, let's talk about why it happened.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, Peter and Mary Jane are the Lois and Clark of the Marvel Universe, in my opinion. Certainly with the Spider-Man mythos, obviously. Yeah. They had dated on and off since the 60s.
Yeah.
Not really anything serious until post-Gwen dying.
Yeah.
And
he did actually ask her to marry him during right before the Marv Wolfman stuff happened, where she left the title for a while.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff went on in their lives post Gwen's death. Like, she left for a little bit, like Adam said, and then she came back to the title during Tom DeFalco's run.
Actually, I want to say she came back during Stern first.
She did, and then but Tom DeFalco really gave her the backstory, which I actually have that issue too.
Yeah,
I know. As big a Mary Jane stan as I am, I have that issue. But
and it gets really touched on in the Parallel Lives trade.
Yes,
which
exactly.
Is where more of her.
I would like to review that too at some point.
I need to just sit down and read that. I have it, and I just need to sit down and read it.
Read it and we'll review it. I mean,
that's fair.
I need to sit down and reread Kraven's Last Hunt, and we can review that too. So,
yeah.
but anyway, and it led up to the events in here, which collects Amazing Spider-Man numbers 290 to 292, which had Peter basically being like, I've got my Spider-Man life in order, but I need to get my Peter Parker life in order. And the way he thinks he can do that is he mentions, he's like, I would like to have someone to talk to and someone to be there and stuff. he goes and he decides to propose to Mary Jane on the eve of her getting a phone call about her family in Pittsburgh. So he asks her, and her response, and it's the cliffhanger of 290.
Yeah, which is, will you marry me? And
then you get to 291, and she says no.
Yeah.
But then she's like, maybe, I don't know. I have way too much going on right now.
As a real quick aside, this issue is also interesting because it brings back Peter's old microscope. Which was
I actually liked. I loved that little part.
Because it was given to him actually at the beginning of Amazing Fantasy by Uncle Ben, and this actually plays a part in a couple of different issues, if I may, because I love talking about this microscope because it's interesting. But basically, Uncle Ben gave it to him as a gift because it was a really high-powered microscope, and Aunt May here accidentally sells it in a church bazaar. Not on purpose. It's
to benefit orphans.
Well, and she told these people to take some of Peter's old toys, and they took the microscope by mistake, thinking it was like an old toy that he wouldn't want anymore. Which he does eventually buy back. He would actually give it up later, and it would actually be found by this dude he puts it on Uncle Ben's grave, and the gravekeeper finds the microscope and gives it to his son. Which later would get retconned where that Peter found the microscope again, but then gives it to somebody else. But the microscope actually does have a little bit of history in the title, and I actually really like that they brought it up here because I like that little piece.
Yeah. And so behind the scenes, what was going on was in 1977, Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. started doing the Amazing Spider-Man daily comic, otherwise known as the newspaper strip comic.
Which eventually Romita would stop doing, and then Stan's brother would do the art for it.
Steve Lieber and a couple other people took it on. Stan wrote a good chunk of them. It's debatable after a point whether or not he actually wrote it or if he just kind of dictated it.
Yeah.
But that strip ran all the way up to 2019, and it ended right around the time Stan died because they kind of just felt like, okay, this would be a good time to end it.
Yeah.
And I really like the newspaper continuity for a number of reasons. To me, the newspaper strip is a lot more grounded, I think, and like more so, even more so than the comic.
Yeah.
I love Peter and Mary Jane's relationship in it. It's very much like. There's none of the manufactured drama that certain writers would throw in there because they didn't like the marriage.
Yeah.
It actually actively ignores OMD. It literally.
Because
it literally is that Peter. It's a bad dream.
Yeah.
And like he wakes up and Mary Jane's there and he's like, I was having a dream that
I was living in Aunt
I was
May's.
single and I was living in Aunt May's, and MJ's like, well, you're married now, so get up. And they remain married the rest of the strip's entire lifespan. And the strip actually ended with them going off to vacation in Australia.
Oh, that's good for them. Oh, no.
Happy ending.
No wonder they don't come back. They get attacked by the kangaroo.
Oh, Jesus. But
Peter's greatest nemesis.
But Stan he'd gotten to a point where he was like, I want to marry them in the newspaper strip.
Yeah.
And I've heard a couple different variations on how this happened. The most common one that seems to happen, or that I happen to see, tends to be that he went to Jim Shooter, who was editor-in-chief at Marvel at the time, and said, hey, I'm going to get them married in the newspaper strip.
Which ruffled...
To which Shooter was like, that's an important first. We're not going to let that happen in the comic, the daily strip first. We're going to do it in the comic, too.
Which Stan was like, well, that wasn't really my intention, but okay.
And like I'd heard a story that like he brought that up at a convention. Like
I've heard this story.
He kind of trapped Jim Shooter at a convention and basically was like, because I think a fan had brought up a question in this story, and like I said, I don't know if this is true or not. I've heard it.
Yeah.
And as we all know, bullshit talks, money walks, all that kind of shit. It could be true. It could be not true.
Well, then to be fair, Stan has even said itself he doesn't remember everything the way it used to go.
And human memory is never really that reliable. But basically, a fan brought it up, and Stan basically he's like, well, I'm not editor-in-chief anymore, so I'll have to run it by my boss. And he turns to Jim and he's like, how about it, Jim? Are we gonna get them married? And Jim Shooter kind of just had to be like, yeah, we're like he's on the spot,
Well, and to be fair, this is also like kind of in the middle of Shooter's tenure where he was starting to go a little. Actually, no, this is towards the end of his tenure. We're like,
because DeFalco took over right after this.
Yeah. Because you have to understand, Shooter is very contentious when it comes to Marvel. Like, on the one hand,
4chan loves him.
well, then like, he got Secret Wars to happen, which was very good for the company.
He got Tom DeFalco to write Amazing Spider-Man, even though Tom DeFalco said, "I can't write Spider-Man. I don't know how to write that kind of dialogue. I'm a comedy guy. I can't write Spider-Man." Lo and behold, Tom DeFalco is one of the greatest Spider-Man writers in fucking history.
Yeah, and like he also made some very boneheaded decisions. We've talked about one on this channel itself, the script with Dazzler.
Avengers 200.
Well, yeah.
Something you'll never see us review on this fucking channel.
Financially wise, it's arguably he's one of the bigger reasons why Marvel did not do very well in the late 80s and early 90s, which eventually would lead to their bankruptcy. Outside of the stuff with Ron Perlman, but and I've actually heard that he is the person that they are talking about in. If you've ever read Iron Man Demon in the Bottle, when Jarvis throws up his letter of resignation to Tony.
Is that Jim Shooter's letter of resignation?
No, this was someone leaving the company because they were mad at Jim Shooter because of a decision they made. God. But they changed they changed the names to be like Avengers characters and Tony. But apparently that was a real
letter of resignation.
And Jim Shooter thought it would be hilarious to put it in the.
I mean, it is fucking hilarious in my opinion.
But at the same time,
imagine being that person, you look at it you're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, like, no, Shooter is very contentious, and I don't know everything about Shooter. I just know he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
and I think he's one of the
not as bad as that guy that took over the guy that took over the Spider-Man titles and he fucked over DeFalco with the Hobgoblin.
Christopher Owsley or like
something
Priestley.
Like that. Yeah, something.
That's
like
not his
that.
real name. It's
that guy in the late '90s was an asshat too.
Oh,
can't remember that. The guy that told Mackie to kill MJ off in the plane crash.
I forget who that was.
I can't even remember who that guy was, but he's also an asshat. And then the less said about the guy that came after him, the better.
Oh, Bill Jemis?
No. You know who I'm talking about. Quesadilla Man.
Well, technically, him and Jemis ran at the same time, and Jemis gave us the
I think it is Jemis who I was thinking of. I think it's Jemis.
No, but I could tell you a whole bunch of shit about Bill Jemis because he's actually one of the reasons why we didn't get a Nick Fury film. Well, that and a Nick Fury film starring David Hasselhoff.
Yeah. But anyway,
getting back to it.
Yeah. So they decided to go ahead. They were gonna they married him in the comic at the same time, and they married him in the daily comic at the same time. And not to be outdone, they actually put on a live action version of it at Shea Stadium.
Yeah. Right
before the Mets game against, ironically enough, because we're Pennsylvania people, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And they won.
The Mets won against the Pirates. So that to me is a little ironic.
Yeah.
Especially given that MJ's from Pittsburgh. That's a little ironic.
Well, I wonder if my grandpa remembers that. He's a huge Pirates fan. I wonder if he remembers that.
You might ask him about it. I mean, it was on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, there is footage of it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, but, sadly the whole thing you can't find because it's kind of a lost media sort of thing.
It might turn up at some point.
It probably will because someone
has it somewhere. I mean, we thought the same thing about those newspaper strips until I bought them, and I'm gonna digitize them
Yeah. But no, I assume someone recorded.
Someone has that somewhere. They probably just don't know they have it.
Which they actually do they do the script to that in some of the pictures. They actually got an actual actress who does very much like MJ. They also got
trying to find a good picture of.
They also got dudes dressed up as like the Hulk, Captain America. My favorite is they got Fire and Iceman because of Spider-Man, his amazing friends. Which I don't even think that show was even still existed when that was coming out.
Yeah.
But I just love that because they got them married while some dude in a Spider-Man suit was wearing a tux over it. What's even more interesting is the fact that wedding dress that you see her wearing
is a real dress.
Yeah.
It was the last design that Willie Smith, I believe his name was Willie Smith.
I believe it was Willie Smith.
I want to make sure I got it right because I
if you go to the annual, she talks to him.
Yeah, I have respect for that guy.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, Willie Smith. It was the last thing he designed. He died from AIDS-related pneumonia.
Yeah.
And he apparently was, if I remember correctly, reading somewhere, he was a massive Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, that was the last thing he designed was Mary Jane's wedding dress.
Yeah. I think I've actually seen cosplayers actually make that dress.
There was a very cute article I saw online where someone a couple recreated like a bunch of scenes from this, like right down to like the groom showing up with the shoes, and it's like I hope to have that kind of love someday, honestly.
No,
God forbid my wife, my future wife, whoever is out there, has to deal with me being like, we should do this stuff.
Meanwhile, me at this wedding being like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you're gonna be my Flash Thompson, so obviously.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to break my arm? I don't want to do that.
Adam, I'm gonna have to ship you off to Vietnam.
First of all, it no longer is canon. It was Afghanistan, and I'm not losing my legs either.
But you get to be Agent Venom. It's an upgrade. You get to be a Space Knight. I'm trying to help you.
I would rather be raw Space Knight.
But anyway, yeah, it was the last design he did, and if I remember correctly, I think this dress is somewhere. If not, it might be lost, but I would have to do citation needed on that.
Yeah, because she actually, the actress that plays her actually wears the dress too, which blew me away. Like, up until I knew it had been designed by an actual designer. I didn't know they actually made the dress. That was the part that blew me away.
Yep, it looks like it is.
Like, that was the part that blew me away, is they actually had her wearing this dress. Yep. I was like, holy shit.
Yep, it is.
Although I think it's a little less...
It's a little less mermaidish.
Yeah.
Because, like, on this, like, they even mentioned that it's supposed to hug Mary Jane's form.
Yeah. Because they really wanted to play up the curvy vivaciousness, because it's really supposed to play to her personality. Well, it's supposed to play to her personality, because she's very vivacious.
But yeah, so we're going to do the comic wedding first, and then we'll do the newspaper strip wedding. But getting into the lead up to it, as we mentioned, Peter proposes to Mary Jane. She says no initially, and then she's like, maybe, I don't know, I have a lot going on.
Yeah, look, shit's going down, Pete. Can we put a attack in it?
Yeah, so she has to go to Pittsburgh for some family issues. She won't even let Peter accompany her to the airport because she's just dealing with stuff. You know, because again, Mary Jane's family life is not very good.
No.
Basically. So, all the while that's going on, Alistair Smythe is trying to kill Peter.
Yeah, for those of you who don't...
With a new Spider Slayer.
For those of you who don't know, he is the son of Spencer Smythe, who was the original Spider Slayer creator. Basically, Alistair created Spider Slayers because he wanted... Less because he wanted Jonah, like, help from Jonah. He did more so because he wanted to prove his superiority to his father and also get revenge on Spider-Man, because he blames Peter, even though Spencer's own stupidity was what killed him, because he kept using radiation to power the Spider Slayers.
Yeah, and he also is pissed at Peter because the last time they fought...
Led to him getting paralyzed from the waist down.
Led to him getting paralyzed and such, and having to only being able to get food, like, via injections.
Yeah.
You know, so... Mary Jane actually has a very close call, because this Spider Slayer is able to track Peter, and it actually tracks him to MJ's apartment.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, crashes the wall and stuff, but obviously Mary Jane's already left at that point, so is Peter. So there's a quick fight between Peter and this Spider Slayer, and I actually really like the guy that intervenes with the bulldozer.
He's like, hey, Spidey's one of us.
Yeah, it's very much like a Raimi, like that scene at the end of the first Raimi film, you know, where, like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah. Also, real quick, it's funny that they put Peter in his regular red and blues, because for most of this he wears the black suit. Yeah, because this is around the period he was really wearing the black costume.
I'm just gonna use the gallery edition because the pictures are bigger.
Like, because like the Marvel Age like shows that scene of, like, you know, where they're all gathered around, and it shows the I Now Pronounce You Man and Wife. But in that scene, they use the traditional red and blue silhouette for Peter.
Whereas in the actual comic, it's the black suit.
It's the black suit.
And this is the cloth version. This is not the...
Yeah, no, this is post-symbiote, but pre-Venom.
Yeah, so... Mary Jane arrives in Pittsburgh and arrives at her sister Gail's house, where it's revealed that, you know, Gail's in prison.
Because of their dad.
Yeah. And basically what's going on is... MJ's dad is down on his luck, and he's been using his connections as a professor to basically steal manuscripts and sell them on the black market. And he tricked Gail into trying to get this one because it was at a university she worked at. And basically he wants Mary Jane to go and get the manuscript, so that there won't be any evidence, and it'll be like they'll give Gail a light sentence or some shit. Anyway, Peter realizes, he's like, I need to go help Mary Jane.
Yeah.
So he goes down to Pittsburgh, you know, and it's funny, like the bridge they mentioned in the one issue. I'm like, I've driven across that bridge. I drove across that to get to the convention center.
Well, I also really love how he even points out, he's like, I don't know this city nearly as well as New York.
Yeah, like he gets lost at one point.
Yeah. Actually, he gets lost a couple of times.
Get fair. Pittsburgh is confusing as fuck, honestly, but especially if you're not used to it.
Well, yeah, I would argue it's more funny to me because New York, given how fucking crammed in everything is, you would probably have a harder time if you were a web-slinging hero running through it, remembering where everything is. But
yeah, I'm surprised he didn't run into that issue Kane had in Houston where he runs out of fucking high buildings.
Oh yeah, that part was so great. Although to be fair, they're mostly in downtown Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of tall buildings.
But so anyway, he goes to Mary Jane, and he meets Philip Watson, who is one of the biggest pieces of shit in Marvel history.
Thank you for telling his name, because I don't ever remember his name.
Well, I write fanfic and I role play Mary Jane on Tumblr. I know exactly who the fuck Philip Watson is.
No, that's fair.
It's just same as I know Madeline Watson, because that's Mary Jane's mom. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically this all gets revealed to Peter, and they go and visit Gale, and Gale and MJ blow up on each other, and MJ leaves, and I actually kind of like Peter, like talking back to Gale and being like, you need to get a fucking grip.
Like I get you're mad because which to be fair, I can understand why MJ didn't stick around with Gale.
Yeah, I don't either. I completely understand.
Because I get like her wanting MJ to help her with her kids, but at the same time I'm like,
MJ Gale was just a teenager.
Yeah, she's like 16. You want her to completely
and you just lost your mom.
Yeah. You think that she should ruin her life like you ruined yours?
Yeah, I completely agree with MJ.
No, I kind of see why Aunt Anna took her in, because she's like, no more of this. Yeah, you stay with me.
Yeah, but so anyway, they go to get the manuscript, and Alistair attacks, and it leads into this big battle throughout Pittsburgh, going across the river, and there's this great scene. There's two really great scenes in this story that I like, where it shows Mary Jane being an active part of this battle and helping Peter. Mm-hmm. She crashes Gale's car into the Spider Slayer's leg at one point.
Yeah, because it has Peter submerged underwater, and she just decides to ram it.
Yeah, she rams into it and crashes the car against it to distract him. And then later, when they're up on the hills, she actually grabs a bat and starts fucking swinging at the legs again to distract.
Yeah.
And it leads into Alistair deciding, okay, I'm just gonna kill Mary Jane, because he actually had thought that Mary Jane was Spider-Man at one point. Because they have fought before, and it leads to Peter overcoming this gas that Alistair hit him with, because he gets enough adrenaline because he sees that that Alistair's going to kill Mary Jane, and then he just goes apeshit on
he just tears this Slayer apart.
Yeah, and then he basically goes back to him, and he's like, if you ever think about hurting her again, I'm going to start pounding on you, and I'm going to pretend you're the robot.
Understood. And Alistair's just like,
understood.
All right.
Yeah, so that leads into it. They go back to the hotel, and a couple days later, there's this good scene of Mary Jane and them. Well, real quick, they get Philip Watson arrested. Yeah. Basically, Mary Jane calls the cops, and Philip Watson stupidly admits to everything while the cops are in the next room overhearing it. So that's a mission of guilt right there. Yeah. So they get Gale out of prison. She's going to get a reduced sentence.
She also plans on bringing the kids to visit Mary Jane at some point, which doesn't get acted on until actually no, she doesn't even. We don't even see her visit. Mary Jane visits her during the Clone Saga.
I was about to say I don't think that happened. I don't think any of that happens until the 90s.
Yeah, They don't bring up Gale again until right before during the Clone Saga.
Yeah, but so they leave, and they're waiting in the airport, and basically Mary Jane accepts Peter's proposal and says yes.
Now, I know a lot of people like to say that why she says yes to him doesn't really make a lot of sense. For me, it does here a lot, because literally Peter decided that she was more important than a supervillain running around New York. Although, I love Peter's like, I hope he doesn't hurt anybody. I'm like, Peter, he literally created this weapon to kill you. He's not...
Yeah, he's looking for you, bro.
Yeah,
he's not looking for anybody else. But no, for me, what it is... if I may, it symbolizes further growth of Mary Jane from the carefree, laissez-faire party girl that was her character throughout most of the '60s up until Gwen's death.
Yeah.
That was built upon during Tom DeFalco's run when he gave her the backstory. To me, her initially saying no maybe to the proposal and then saying yes after all this is because, and this is touched upon in Parallel Lives as well. So again, we will review Parallel Lives at some point soon. I hope. I would need to reread it, but I'm always down for rereading Parallel Lives. One of my favorite books.
I've always heard good things about Parallel Lives. I just need to read it.
Not if you're Joe Quesada or Tom Brevoort, but
I don't
whatever.
really care about their opinion.
Yeah. Fuck the both of them. But anyway, it symbolizes that Mary Jane has learned to trust Peter, and that Peter is not someone that will turn out like her dad.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that I've always looked at it as Peter and Mary Jane, this whole storyline is another example of just how perfect they are for each other, because they're not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, Mary Jane helped Peter get his own stuff back together, and in this instance, Peter shows up and does the same.
Yeah. And
it just shows that they are two very complicated people that love and care for each other, and they find ways to make it work. And in this story in particular, it shows that despite whatever fears Mary Jane might have about being trapped in a marriage, like what happened to her mom
and
or what
sister.
happened to Gail, is that Peter is not the kind of person that will happen with.
Yeah.
And that she takes that leap of faith to trust him. And as we see throughout the next 30 years, it worked.
Yeah. I saw what you did there with that leap of faith.
I could write an academic paper about this, so I mean, I love this couple to death.
For me, I also think they also catch each other when they fall a lot. Like, you know, I've always argued the very first time, like back during like the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s, when he asks for the first time, she clearly knows it's because he's still grieving about Gwen. He just wants someone to be with. And granted, while that's still kind of true here, they really show, like, early on that Peter, it's more not because he wants someone to, it's because he realizes that it's missing. You know, like, he's finally accepted that because, like, at this point, I want to say he even admitted to himself he's not going to ever do the I am Spider-Man no more thing. Like, that was one of the bigger things that happened during this period.
Was he accepted that he is
Spider-Man? That is a part of his life, and that he needs to have balance in both. That's also why he's like, there is something missing at the very beginning of this, where he's like, I am happy, but why do I still feel
like I'm incomplete?
And it's because MJ completes him. Like, she knows that he needs to talk to somebody, and she even says, you know, why don't you go talk to Aunt May? You know, maybe what you need to do is just have and
then she even mentions, she's like, why do I wish that he would do that? He would confide in me.
Yeah. And like,
I love the little dialogue there. Let me find it real quick.
Well, and I also love that. That's why the microscope thing happens, and I think it works so well is because Peter is thinking about how much he's grown as a person.
Here it is. Even though May Parker is Peter's aunt, I'm still a little jealous of him turning to another woman. But if she can help him where I can't, that's what he should have. Hey, I just put Peter's happiness before my own. What do you know? Maybe Mary Jane Watson is growing up a little.
You know, it really shows, like, in my opinion, these two issues, not just because they want to get married at the end, it really shows how much they've grown as characters. Like, the fact that Peter has kind of stopped being that mopey superhero where something bad comes and happens to him, he's just like, oh, the Parker luck, oh, this doesn't happen to other superheroes.
Gets his ass beat by Doc Ock. I can't ever be Spider-Man
again. Oh yeah, because he reread through some of the early stuff.
I'm rereading ASM from the very beginning, and man, Peter, this motherfucker brings some of this shit on himself in the early parts.
No, but he'd be like, oh, I've got to try and get money, but oh no, Aunt May's having a heart attack for the 7th time this month. Or, oh, I want to go on a date with Mary Jane, but then the rhino is attacking.
Yeah.
Or, oh no, I accidentally had a date with Gwen, but then I promised Mary Jane I'd go to this. Oh, but then there's supervillain shit happening too. Oh.
Yeah, but it just shows the logical evolution of everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's what makes it such a beautiful story is when you look, like, not with just these issues, but when you look at the entire encompassing story of it, it's very much a story of two characters, two people
Yeah.
growing up and maturing as individuals.
And moving to the next stage of responsibility.
Which has them coming together. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very beautiful story, in my opinion. I think there's a lot real life people could learn from it. I know I certainly have.
I'm also glad that, like, they use a little bit goofy with a Spider Slayer, and they at least use a more grounded villain for, like, them
they don't have it be like Electro or Doc Ock.
Although Electro does show up in the annual,
like
which we're getting
early,
to.
Yeah, very early on.
Which we're getting to, but you know, like, for being basically just 3 issues, it really is actually these are only 2, but, like, then the annual, but it's really interesting how much it's a very simple story. Like, the fact that she says yes to his proposal in an airport.
It's 3 issues.
Yeah, 3 issues. But, you know, he says yes to her in an airport. You know, they don't leave, like, they do leave New York, but, like, it's not like we're going that far in terms of, like, anything else. And just really overall, like, actually kind of funny how they use Alistair, who also has issues with his own father. But it's just a very down to earth, simple story where Peter and MJ.
There's that other cover.
Yeah, where Peter and MJ's lives are being explored while there is a supervillain happening in the background. Moving on to the wedding issue.
Yeah, which is an annual. It is annual number 21.
Which basically opens on Peter, like, going from one crime to the next, trying to get pictures of himself for the Bugle.
Fun fact, too. So the variant cover for this, where he's in the Spider-Man suit, actually, yeah, I think so. Whatever cover is not the newsstand one. I bought it on eBay because I had the actual issue, and I'm like, I want the variant cover. I want both.
Yeah.
Because I actually told you, I think for, like, my birthday, I bought, like, some wedding stuff because I was like, I want to collect wedding stuff.
Well, this is a great annual. Nothing competes with Giant Size Man Thing.
My variant cover came on the anniversary of the day it came out in 1987. So it came on that exact same day. It was in the mail, and I had made a big deal on Twitter posting about, like, like, today is the anniversary of this, and I wish Marvel would just let these two be married again, and I got home and I had packages and I opened it up, and lo and behold, it came on the exact same day.
Which is pretty good.
Which is just poetic,
And also, no, I'm not going to bring up, because I've read the omit version of this.
We're not talking
about it. Mostly because it's stupid.
Yeah. We'll do omit at some point in the future. Maybe when I've got some good hardcore drugs or some shit.
I also forgot this is that version of Electro where he has that stupid black mask with the lightning bolt thing on top of it instead of being all green.
Yeah, but basically the whole brunt of the early part of the issue is just Peter going back and forth doing different crimes, taking pictures because he's trying to get money because the wedding's coming up and I need money.
Real quick, I actually they explain here how he gets pictures a lot better here.
Yeah, because Mary Jane actually asks him about it.
Yeah, and basically he puts a little transmitter in the belt, so whenever the belt passes the camera, it takes a shot of Spider-Man, which I'm like, huh. That was actually interesting.
And this annual actually sets up something that gets really, really addressed in the Spectacular annual, which covers the honeymoon, which we'll get to. But Peter kind of realizes that it's like, I'm a freelance photographer.
Marrying a supermodel,
who's used to, the high life and the luxury and the fancy cars and stuff. And he basically, the way he explains it real good on his page, I just open up to, ironically enough. Sometimes I forget the kind of world Mary Jane is used to, the glamour, the excitement, the money. I mean, I have to consult a financial advisor before I buy a subway token. Sure hope I can keep up once we're married.
Yeah.
It sets up this thread that continues. It's throughout most of this annual, and then it continues into the Spectacular annual, where Peter just basically, he wonders, he's like, am I going to be able to give her the kind of life that she deserves?
Yeah.
And that she's used to.
Which also is a very...
very realistic thing.
And it occurs a lot in, Spider-Man when they were married, and I don't think is really a bad thing, because, it is one of those things that you think of when you are married with a partner, you give them the life they deserve.
Yeah, and I like that it goes both ways. There are numerous times throughout the history when they were married where Mary Jane has, down luck with getting roles or getting shoots and stuff, and they're having money issues because she's the primary breadwinner,
Yeah, which
and it
also means that Peter is her sugar hubby.
Yeah, yeah. But Peter Parker is basically Mary Jane's house husband, which I adore. But I really like it because these are very common issues. Money issues are always something that's relatable.
Unless you're the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, well, and especially like when you're a married couple, and you're gonna worry about this kind of stuff. It's very realistic. I've seen many people say that it was so realistic and so relatable. It's why I always will say that the argument that him being married made him unreliable is complete bullshit.
No,
like anyone that says, well, no one could relate to that is full of shit.
Yeah. And then I actually really like the next scene where basically Peter, shows the photos, which I actually love here, where Robbie says that people are starting to wonder why Spider-Man's like doing all this crime fighting, and Peter's like, "Oh, did I just accidentally make news because I'm just going around kicking ass and taking names?
Ass because I need money on a reporter's salary."
And I love it because Robbie's like, "I want to show you something," before Peter leaves, and it cuts to it's a bachelor party for Peter. Well,
and even J. Jonah Jameson himself shows up.
And I really love this here where Jonah like appears like he's gonna be a hard ass, but then he congratulates Peter and kind of tells him, it's a big like.
Let me get my Jonah voice on.
You might as well, because this is like one of my favorite parts of this.
I know you don't approve of the parties on company time, Jonah, but nonsense. I may be a publisher, but I'm not an ogre. Peter, my boy, you've come a long way since I took you under my wing, and I'm proud of you. Darn proud. I've got 2 words of advice for you, son. Be sure. Marriage is a mighty big step. Once you say I do, there's no turning back. Comprende? Yeah, Jonah, thanks. Thing is, I do understand. For all of Jonah's boneheadedness, he's a wise man, and he's right.
Yeah.
Marriage is a big step. Am I sure, really sure that I'm ready for it?
Which I actually really love that Jonah isn't like one of those but like grumpy old people that talks about how marriage is like a trap and shit. Especially because he had just, I want to say like a few years ago, recently remarried to Marla Madison.
The most he says is don't let yourself get henpecked. Which I'm like, that's like lighthearted.
Which is hilarious to me because he is so henpecked when it comes to Marla. Like, he loved her so much.
Your wife's on line 1.
Well, to be fair, that's actually Jonah's first wife in the Raimi films because they didn't know about Marla.
I like that basically, before he leaves, Robbie whips out a check and he's like, I'm sure you'll want to sign this bonus check to help Peter with his wedding. And
this part's great.
The one from all of us, and Jonah's like, check. Yes, of course. So Robbie gives it that, and then he leaves and stuff, and Peter he kind of sees that Robbie tricked Jonah into it. And he even tells Jonah, he's like, listen, Jonah, I know this wasn't your idea. Maybe you'd better take the check back. And Jonah's like, that's all right, Parker. Keep it. And then he's thinking, I'll find some other way to make up the expense. When after Peter leaves, he looks at Mrs. Hotchkiss, and he's like, oh, Miss Hotchkiss, do remember to take down the names of everyone here. Why don't you? I would hate to dock someone who wasn't here.
Because I want to say this is during that period where Betty was no longer his secretary, and he had Miss Hotchkiss.
She does show up.
Yeah, but I want to say here now she's a news reporter.
Yeah.
Or no, actually, this leads into a really dark storyline with Betty.
Yeah, because Ned's dead.
Well, yeah, and this is also where she joins a cult for a brief.
I have those issues actually.
Mostly because A, she's coming undone, and B, she's the reason why.
I believe that's called Cult of Love, and it's in Web of Spider-Man. Actually, again, I have those issues.
But basically, Flash cheated on Shashan, his girlfriend from Vietnam, with Betty, which leads to them breaking up, and basically her and Flash kind of have this off and on again thing. But Miss Hotchkiss, I want to say, is Jonah's secretary up until they introduce Glory, aka Glory Grant, who is one of my favorite characters in the Bugle, just because she's so feisty.
Yep. And so Peter goes back to the apartment, and he has the ring for Mary Jane.
Yeah, because he uses the bonus to pay for the ring.
I love this scene so much, where basically, Mary Jane brings up, I thought we were going to get it together. I mean, I did help pick it out, and Peter mentions I got all this extra money from the Bugle, so I went to get it. And, Mary Jane's at that point, she's cooking, she's cooking pasta,
Yeah, which
To which Peter decides that, she makes a comment so you hand it to me while I'm elbow deep in linguine? That's about as romantic as Heat Rash. To which Peter's like, oh, really? So he jumps up on the ceiling, gets on one knee, and he basically goes, Prithee, fair madam, would thou'st accept this paltry token of my heartfelt and honest affection, huh? Wouldst thou? To which Mary Jane looks at him and says, Peter, you're strange and wonderful. Now will you please come down? I hate cleaning footprints off the ceiling.
Which I actually love. There's a fan work that's redoing. That's making spectacular.
One of my friends is involved with it.
Yeah,
I actually showed it to him. And they did that.
They actually did that. Yeah. I also love it in this where they actually show how good Peter is at clinging to stuff because when he's worried about MJ during the early issues, he actually does that thing where he walks on the side of the wall, kind of like that scene in Spider-Verse where he just casually walks up the building instead of like crawling.
Me and my friend Shay, when we role play, I actually had it that when he was waiting for Mary Jane to take the pregnancy test, he was doing that pacing on the ceiling shit.
Yeah.
And I remember I actually remember talking to her on Discord and being like, have you ever seen Flintstones? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, did you ever see the one where he was waiting for Pebbles to be born and Barney's like, hey, you're wearing a groove in the floor.
He actually wore a groove.
Yeah, I'm like, I always joked, I'm like Peter's over here wearing a groove in the fucking ceiling.
Yeah, that was, but like, I love actually that they show how really good Peter is at clinging to the ceiling, where the fact he doesn't even need like all of his limbs to cling.
Yeah, and then we get kind of what's the main conflict of this book is that they're both nervous. You know, Peter's nervous because, again, he's worried about the money issues and like, oh, can I give Mary Jane the life that she's used to? You know, because I'm Spider-Man and it's not really bringing in a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a freelance photographer. And
in this part with MJ,
Mary Jane has all these people from her like, you know, from her profession and stuff, and they're all thinking she's crazy for getting married. Especially
to this nobody who just is a freelance photographer.
Yeah, to which, you know, they reveal that, you know, Mary Jane has her own nerves about it, and she wonders, like, you know, am I making the right decision on this? You know, and again, they both have them, and it's very, very realistic.
Although I do know this is like a point of contention for people where like all the...
I know, and to me, it's just anyone that takes issue with how nervous they both are clearly has never known anyone who actually got fucking married and didn't realize that, like, there's a lot of stress that goes into this kind of stuff.
Well, and it's because like she hangs out with all these other guys, which when we get to that, there's a scene where I wouldn't, when we get to it, I kind of want to talk about
they rectify it in Spectacular because she hangs out with this group of girls the entire time.
Yeah. But as we go, because basically this dude named Bruce, who I love this, what Colton pointed out to me here, he's
basically supposed to be Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he's supposed to be Batman, fucking trying to steal Peter's girl.
Which I'm like, damn, Bruce, come on now.
Yeah, like, come on, you already have a redhead in Gotham.
Yeah, but so they go to Aunt May's house and they announce to Aunt Anna and Aunt May that, you know, we're gonna get married. And I love Aunt May's dialogue here.
Yeah.
With this, and we get a scene of Peter, you know, going through memories and stuff, and he thinks about Gwen for a little bit, and
which does become is one of the, in my opinion,
one of my complaints.
Actually kind of I don't mind because it's very sad, and it's basically. This is Peter finally having to let go of Gwen.
Yeah.
Like, he can no longer just have her as a memory that he clings to. This is basically him saying goodbye to Gwen one more time.
Yeah, and at least to me. I really love Aunt May's dialogue here to Peter about it, you know, because he brings up that, I'm fine, Aunt May, thanks. It's just that the marriage as a concept is one thing, but when you apply it to yourself, well, it can be a little scary. To which Aunt May looks at him and says, now look here, young man, you're a Parker. And you've got more gumption than anyone I know. You love that little girl, and you'll do what's right for her and you. And let the chips fall where they may. Just make sure you save a little love for me, Peter.
No, I don't know, that part just is so beautiful. Like, it's one of the reasons why, like...
Because Aunt May is the #1 Peter Mary Jane shipper.
Well, that night... It's one of the reasons why, like, if they do get remarried and, like, they have a kid, I'm like, don't kill Aunt May, like, right away. I just want to see, like, them have this big family just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that, like I want us to see, like, you know, like they still have her Mayday, but like, you know, have her and May and Anna and just kind of have that experience, this big family that Peter should have always had.
Yeah, and so Mary Jane's out all night with this Bruce guy, and then she finally comes back around 1 a.m, and there is a very, very good fanfic on AO3. I don't remember the name of it, but I have it bookmarked. I might throw a link to it down in the description, where it is what happened from Mary Jane's point of view, and it's very, very beautifully written. I really, really love it.
I think that would have actually helped this book a little bit more if we actually got more of her point of view during this.
Yeah, but
I mean, the title is The Amazing Spider-Man, so
basically, you know, Mary Jane asks Peter, like, is there some place you go that's private or quiet when you just need to think? And he's like, yeah. So he takes her to the top of the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
You know,
or the Chrysler Building in another alternate reality.
Yeah. That is a pretty sweet view. But
it's always been the Empire State Building, for the record.
Yeah, but so, you know, they talk, and I really love this part right here where Mary Jane's like, I have to admit, this is a bigger kick than a crosstown bus or even a limo, but it is going to take some getting used to with the web swinging.
And then she accidentally, during the time they're talking, she accidentally brings up the Brooklyn Bridge, and it is here that I think here where they finally cement which bridge Gwen died on.
Yeah.
Which then kind of ruins the moment. Peter decides, I think that's enough alone time. Let's
Yeah, and then we get the first look at the dress by Willie Smith.
Well, actually, they draw here in one point.
I'm past it, but he shows up. So they go and get their marriage license, and then Peter goes to. I really love Mary Jane's dialogue here, like, you know, because the guy at the Department of Licenses and Registrations is like, first time for both, huh? Mary Jane says, and for both of us, the first time's forever.
You know, Peter's like humming.
Yeah, so
which is basically most of this book.
Peter goes to talk to Flash, you know, about a bachelor party, and Flash is instantly like, I'm throwing you a bachelor party, and we are gonna do it.
Just real quick, he's at the hospital with a broken arm because of shit that involved the Hobgoblin. Because he got framed for being the Hobgoblin.
Read the Hobgoblin stuff. It's fucking great. Meanwhile, Mary Jane and Peter meet up for lunch, and he actually, for a minute, considers telling her, like, I don't know if we should get married, you know. And Mary Jane shows him a Polaroid
of the dress
of the dress, you know. And I love Mary Jane again. I love Mary Jane's dialogue here.
Her dialogue's really good here.
I'm going to be so beautiful for you. I'll make you so proud you'll want to burst. Almost as proud as I am of you.
Oh, he's gonna burst, MJ.
But so they go and have a bachelor party, and Peter's is just Harry and Flash, you know. And Peter brings up
at the coffee bean.
Yeah, and Peter brings up, like, I don't know. Am I making the right decision here? And I love Flash Thompson is the one who tells him.
Well, first, to be fair, Harry does bring up, it's like, yeah, me and Liz, we have our fights, but we always talk it out.
Which Peter says here, I mean, marriage is such a change, such a permanent one, and there are so many ways for people to get hurt. Maybe marriage just isn't for me. To which Harry says, I can't speak for anyone else, Peter, but marriage was the best thing that ever happened to me.
It really was.
Sure, Liz and I have our spats, and sometimes they sting, but we always talk it out, and we know we never mean to hurt each other. To which Peter says, yeah, but you found a 1 in a million relationship. What if Mary Jane and I aren't right for each other? To which Flash steps in and says, I can relate to that, pal. My life with Shawshan was a disaster. I really blew it. And now I'm seeing someone who I feel like I'm taking advantage of. Love hasn't been good to me.
He's talking about Betty, for the record.
To which Peter says, then we're on the same wavelength. You're saying marriage is a mistake. To which Flash says, hey, I didn't say that. I think about being married all the time. My foul-ups have only made that kind of happiness even more desirable, more precious. And if you've got a chance for that, buddy, you darn well better go for it.
You know, it's Spider-Man's biggest fan that's actually telling him, are you stupid?
But do you love her? Well, yeah, desperately. All right, then. It's settled. Here's to what the world needs, gentlemen, and what we'd all give our good right or left arms for. True love. Which I'm like, beautiful fucking dialogue. Beautiful. And then Mary Jane's having a bachelor party, and she's got all these people saying, no, marry me. Marry me.
Like, there's a fucking Chippendale dancer that comes out of a cake.
Yeah, so meanwhile, Peter's at home, and he has a dream about not being able to protect Mary Jane from all of his villains. Gwen shows up to basically say goodbye.
Uncle Ben shows up.
Yeah. And we get another scene of Mary Jane with this Bruce guy. Meanwhile, Peter is at the Brooklyn Bridge, basically, kind of like Adam said, saying goodbye to Gwen, finally, and letting her go.
Which he does all night, according to the dialogue.
So the next day at City Hall, basically, everybody's there.
Except MJ and Peter.
Yeah.
Who both run an hour late.
MJ rolls up, you know, and she's like, sorry, I'm late, Tiger. I had to make sure I was perfect for you today. To which, you know, Anna's like, I'm afraid Peter isn't here, dear. He's not. To which Peter runs up, and he's carrying his shoes, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm running behind.
Because he had to wall crawl, and he also had to change in an alley.
He had to avoid getting hit by a brick because, his spider sense would have fucking told him about that.
That didn't happen in this universe. Fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off. I'm gonna. You already know I'm slamming that stupid shit in my own fanfic.
Yeah,
that's getting made fun of.
Well, especially because
it's so stupid.
The one aside I'll bring up in Omid is they completely ruin Flash's scene in there because he basically tells Peter you were an idiot for getting married in Omid, and I'm like, wow, you had to ruin Flash here too.
Yeah,
you dickhead.
Yeah, so.
But moving back to the good stuff.
Yeah, so they show up, and Mary Jane says, well, being late is fashionable, so I forgive you, if you're ready now. To which Peter says, lady, I've never been more ready for anything in my life.
Yeah.
To which, thus the ceremony begins, time-honored and true. Dry eyes turn misty as words are spoken, drawing two lives together in a sacred, unseen bond. And at last, as the joyous occasion nears its inevitable, majestic conclusion. Do you, Mary Jane Watson, take this man, Peter Parker, to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, for in richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish for as both as you long shall live? I will take this man, very special man, to be the most important thing in my life, because that's exactly what I've realized he already is. And do you, Peter, take this woman, Mary Jane, to be your lawfully wedded wife. She knows better than anyone else what she's getting into, and she still wants me. How could I possibly turn down someone like that? I do. Then by the power vested in me by the sovereign state of New York, I now pronounce you husband and wife.
Which, low-key, I know that that's not supposed to be a big scream thing there, but I always imagine that the priest just suddenly decided to scream like a banshee, and just Peter and MJ being like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, and so they're at their reception, and
which I think it's just at a restaurant.
Yeah, and when it's revealed that Bruce gave Mary Jane and Peter 2 tickets to use his villa in France for their honeymoon as a gift. Which
you don't see here. That's in the
Yep. Because the epilogue is after the annual, which is them back at home, and I love it. First off, Peter carries Mary Jane across the threshold one-handed, carrying all their luggage with the other one. To which Mary Jane says, I always dreamed about being carried over the threshold, but with one hand, that's class. Of course, doing other newlywed things like unpacking and thinking about what to fix for dinner are going to seem somewhat mundane after that honeymoon we had.
As well as doing laundry and taxes.
To which Peter says, I know, it sure made me think a bit. I mean, after 2 weeks in that fabulous villa, what the heck are we doing in a dump like this? To which Mary Jane says, that's easy, Tiger. We're doing exactly what we'd be doing anyplace. Living happily ever after.
Which they've used that happily ever after
and
line
then at the end,
so many times.
Enough said.
Good old Stanley. Enough said.
Yeah. And so that's the wedding in the comic. I'm gonna glance over the wedding in the newspaper strip because it's basically the same thing.
And we are running at like 57 minutes.
Yeah, we're already running late. So, but basically it's the same thing. The difference in the newspaper strip is they are married by Mary Jane's uncle, Spencer, who is a justice.
Also, real quick, this panel of MJ weirds me out. She's got like chipmunk cheeks.
That's just how the Sunday strips were all drawn. She always looks like that. But I love the newspaper strip wedding. I actually like the wedding, the actual wedding itself in the strip. I actually like better than the comic. Like I know when me and Adam had talked about it, I remember I asked him the first time because I think this was your first time reading the newspaper strip, right?
It was, yeah.
So because I remember I asked him, I'm like, did you prefer the comic or did you prefer the newspaper strip?
To be honest, I kind of prefer the comic a bit more, but that's just because I think it delves a little bit more into their thought processes leading up to the day.
Yeah.
Whereas here it's Peter spending like 2 months real time being like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work out.
But see, I love it. I love that in this because Mary Jane is always the one to reassure him. Like, he thinks he lost the ring, but he gave it to Uncle Spencer to hold on to, and Mary Jane, just gives him a kiss on the cheek and says, "Courage, lover. It's only a wedding." And so my favorite thing about this, honestly, is this last Sunday strip.
Oh, where he takes her across the threshold again.
Yep. Which is, it was the greatest day of my life, the day I carried my new bride across the threshold. Welcome home, Mrs. Parker. The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Parker. Wow, I can tell a bachelor lived here. When's the last time you dusted? And who selected these fabrics? Whoa, lady, we're married 5 minutes and you're nagging already. Sure, lover, I've got to make up for lost time. But whenever you catch me nagging, I'll give you a kiss to make up for it. How's that? You know something gorgeous? I'm going to be the only husband who wants a nagging wife. Like it's so fucking adorable. Like they're so adorable in this strip.
To be fair, I will admit, Stan Lee has a really great way of writing these two that I
even like this one up here where he got her to realize that he's like, look, if I didn't love you, why would I want to marry you? Because you're a nutcase. But I guess I'm just as nutty. Like,
he's like, they had an argument, so he sneaks into the house and makes a giant heart-shaped web ball, and he comes in all like. Also, I love how they show that the Spider-Man mask is like a one-piece part of the costume.
Oh yeah, it's always like that. It's like that a lot in the newspaper strip up until like the 90s. I think they changed it to be a little more. The one thing I will tell you that I fucking adore, one little detail, and it happens a lot in the newspaper strip, and you'll find this amusing. Mary Jane irons his costume. I find it so fucking adorable, honestly. Like it's so cute.
It is adorable, but I don't know if that's good for spandex.
She even mentioned, she's like, I don't know why I iron your costume because I don't think the villains care. Like,
well, I mean,
it's adorable.
Yeah.
Like in the newspaper strip, just like in the comic, they are adorable. But I argue they're honestly even more adorable in the newspaper strip.
Well, to be fair, I feel a lot of that goes because I think Stan based a lot of their marriage on his own.
Yeah. That's actually, I remember reading that somewhere. I think that's actually true.
Which, to be fair, from what I understand about their marriage, they were like cute as a button. Like one of my favorite stories I always love to tell is that Madam Web in the Spider-Man TAS
is voiced by him, by his wife.
And I love that scene at the end where Peter meets Stan Lee. And Madam Web and him kind of flirt, and it's really, really cute. You can tell that there's
genuine romance there.
Those two were probably in their late 70s at that point. And I don't know. It was really great.
But like I said, that's the wedding. Depending on which version you get, the one you can get now is called the wedding album. You can get it in gallery version, or you can get a normal version. I'm pretty sure. It contains almost all the same stuff. The newer version has a couple added things to it. Like I said, it has the what if issues.
And honeymoon where they meet the puma.
Yeah, which we'll do the honeymoon as a different video because this has gone on pretty long.
Yeah, I will say is you're not missing much if you skip the honeymoon story. I mean, it's good.
I really like it, but
if you're not interested in the puma, I kind of get. Because the puma is one of those characters that's basically just Wolverine again. Actually, real quick, I just realized they actually bring up when they're moving all the clothes out of Peter's because they're trying to make room for MJ's clothes in his closet. They reference that Peter still has the German knockoff costume that he wore during Spider-Man versus Wolverine.
Yeah,
which is a deep fucking cut. Because that is just an odd thing for them to reference, but yeah, it was really fun going back and rereading the wedding issue because I've read it before. It's one of those ones you've seen before. So good lord, the puma looks like fucking Bruce Wayne too. But it's one of those stories that you know quite a bit about just because they've referenced this story so much.
It was in TAS.
Yeah. Although there they get married at a church.
Yeah.
Instead of on the courthouse steps.
It's never been adapted in a major Spider-Man movie.
Sadly, no.
Live action, at least. In Across the Spider-Verse, it's shown in the background as being a canon event.
Yeah.
So, editorial can kiss my ass.
What's funny to me is that, I want to say technically the TAS is the only time they've really ever adapted it.
Yeah, which is a shame because if they ever do Spider-Man 4 with Tobey, I would love for them to have this as like the opening.
That would be nice.
Even if it's really, just really like a flashback, I would love for that.
Yeah.
It would. I've seen fan edits of it, and like I said, I would love to see that in live action, like even very briefly.
Yeah. Truth be told, I had during No Way Home. I've probably brought this up before. I would have really loved to see like basically a scene that was like an epilogue for the other two Spider-Men, but like it's again showing how different their lives are. Because for me, I would have had it that basically it starts with Andrew Spider-Man, and he goes to Gwen's grave and basically tells her, you know, I finally saved someone, Gwen. Like basically the same thing that happened to you, I was able to prevent for another Spider-Man in another universe. I wish I could have saved you, but I'm at least glad I was able to save someone else, and I'm going to try and be the Spider-Man you would have wanted me to be. But then Peter also goes to, like, Toby's Peter goes to a grave too. And like you just see him standing there, and then it cuts to the tombstone, and it reads, you know, Aunt May and Ben Parker, implying that he's going to talk to her. And then if they actually had gotten her, would have had Kirsten's Mary Jane come up being like, "You okay, Tiger? I really missed her a lot, MJ, today, MJ." And basically kind of that paralleling that scene from
like I said, I would just like them to, I don't know, do the fucking wedding.
Yeah, that'd be nice too.
Even if, like, again, it is such a missed opportunity for Marvel to not do animated adaptations like DC does, because listen, if they did an animated adaptation of this, I would buy fucking 8 copies.
Yeah.
You would literally come to work to get it, and there'd be none left. Yeah. I would have bought them all.
It's weird to me that Disney just doesn't do what the DCAU does. Because
I wish they would. It's like they'd make money.
Like, and I don't know why they're so adverse to it either. Like, literally, they made one of the best Avengers cartoons ever with Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It was really one of the best cartoons ever.
Maybe if X-Men 97 takes off, maybe they'll do more. So
I still think it's bullshit. They haven't decided to just make the last season of TAS where he finds MJ.
When am I going to get my second season of Spider-Man Unlimited?
Probably never, my man.
I gotta know if he gets off counter Earth.
Motherfucker, you know they wouldn't have done that. It literally would have been like,
I got to know.
Like every season, he almost gets off counter Earth and then he gets fucking stuck there.
There's only one fucking season.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. It was a Saturday morning kids cartoon that they would have hinted at it every single season.
What if they do a movie to wrap it up?
A movie to wrap it up.
Why not?
He says.
Speaking of wrapping it up, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed us talking about, again, my absolute favorite couple in Marvel history and my favorite wedding of all time. Honestly,
if you're looking for it, you can find it.
It's very cheap on Amazon. It's on Marvel Unlimited.
You actually, if you don't find these,
I actually got this on sale. Like, I got it for $40 when it came out. And it just came out, so you might even be able to pick it up on Amazon on sale. But
if you want something interesting to compare to different weddings that they did, there's
one for Gene and Scott.
Yeah, there's actually one where it collects the wedding of Mr. Reed Richards and Sue Storm, one that the wedding of Gene and Scott, and then also the wedding of Spider-Man.
I might have to actually look for that.
I think there's
I have the wedding album for Gene and Scott. I don't have the actual wedding, but I have the wedding album.
Because there's a I think it's called Marvel's The Wedding album, where it just takes all the wedding issues and puts them in.
Once we stop filming, I'm gonna look that up on Amazon, because actually I love that.
I think
I love Reed and Sue as well.
There's an issue of Comic Pop where they actually talk about, like, because they actually compared this wedding to Scott and Gene's. And I want to say that it was an album that legitimately has, like, each wedding issue.
Stuff.
Yeah. Which I wouldn't mind talking about the wedding of Reed and Sue, because
we need to do more Fantastic Four stuff.
The closest I've ever actually gotten to reading is actually in Marvels, because they actually bring up that as a major history point for the Marvel universe.
There, so I mean,
oh yeah.
But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Average Joe Squad.
And I'm Zangetsu 134.
And as always,
we now pronounce you. Remember the hyphen and take care. Enough said.